your overhead story channel. Let's go listening.
Started like any other morning. No alarms, no chaos, just the stillness of a bedroom steeped in routine, the hum of the ceiling fan, the faint creak of the floorboards with every passing car outside. She was curled up beside me, blanket tangled around her legs the way it always got after a restless night. The curtains were drawn halfway, just enough for the first light of morning to sneak in and paint soft patterns on the wall. But something felt off. I hadn't planned on waking up early. I never do. My body just jolted awake, like it knew something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. That sort of unease, the kind that creeps in before your feet even hit the floor. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake her. I didn't reach for my own phone right away, which is what I usually do. Instead, I just sat there for a moment, taking in the quiet. It was eerie, like the calm right before a summer storm. Then her phone buzzed. It was subtle, a small tremor on the nightstand, but loud enough to pull me out of my head. The screen lit up, and I couldn't help but glance over. Reflex, not suspicion. At least that's what I told myself. What I saw didn't make sense. A message preview hovered at the top of her lock screen. Mark work, 2 hearts, followed by a photo. It wasn't graphic or inappropriate, not by typical standards, but the implication was clear. Her hand wrapped around a drink. A man's hand on top of hers. Comfortable, possessive almost, the kind of touch that speaks louder than words. And then the bracelet. God, that bracelet. It was subtle, matte black with a silver accent, but it caught the light in the image just enough to register. I had pointed it out months ago, in a shop window while we were walking through the arts district. We were *ling time before dinner. I said something casual like, "That's slick, right?" She laughed, called it too much. Not her style. We moved on. Except now it was wrapped around the wrist of some guy named Mark. A guy who, apparently, was in her contacts as work, but still rated a heart emoji. My first instinct wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was confusion. You ever get so caught off guard that your brain just stops? Like a film reel suddenly ripped from the projector. That was me, sitting there in our shared bed, staring at her phone like it had just whispered a secret only I wasn't supposed to hear. I picked up the phone, just held it. I didn't unlock it, though part of me itched to. No, I just walked it over to her and set it gently beside her pillow. She stirred almost immediately, like she could sense something was wrong in the air. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then narrowed the second they landed on the phone. She sat up fast. Too fast. She grabbed the phone, turned the screen off, and pulled the blanket up like it might shield her from whatever she thought was coming next. "Wait," she said, voice cracking with urgency. "It's not what it looks like." I hadn't said a word yet. Not one. But she was already explaining. Already scrambling. She launched into a story about how the message was part of a group chat with coworkers. "They joke around all the time," she said. "It's just something stupid Mark sent last night." I didn't even respond. That was the thing. She was defensive in a way that made it clear this wasn't new. Not the message, but the pattern. The secrecy. The rehearsed lines. She wasn't shocked that I saw the photo. She was shocked that she didn't have time to cover it up first. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about privacy. This was about timing. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just watched her. Observed her trying to plaster calm over panic. She gave a tired laugh, as if this were all one big misunderstanding and I was the silly one for raising an eyebrow. But her voice was too light. Her hands too still. Her eyes darted too much. Her explanation came too fast. I've lived with her long enough to know what her real laugh sounds like. This wasn't it. Didn't even ask what it was, I said finally. My voice sounded strange even to me, cold. Maybe distant, detached. She blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed. She knew I was right. And in that moment, something shifted. Not just in the room, but in me. You think you know what betrayal feels like. You think it's loud, explosive, screaming and crying and door slams. But real betrayal? It's quiet. It's the calm that comes when you realize the fight was already lost months ago. You just didn't get the memo. I sat back down on my side of the bed and stared at the ceiling while she quietly got up, took the phone into the hallway, and whispered something into it. Probably a frantic follow-up. A clean-up text. I didn't follow her. Didn't ask. Because whatever story she was piecing together on the other side of the wall wasn't for me. What stuck with me more than the image itself, more than the heart emoji, more than the bracelet, was the urgency in her voice when she woke up. She wasn't trying to lie to me. She was trying to win the race, to erase, to deflect, to frame the story before I had the chance to question it. That's when I knew the truth had been living in our house long before this morning, and I had just finally seen its face. I didn't say anything else that morning. She came back into the room, phone in hand, hair messy from sleep and damage control, and offered a weak smile like we could rewind. Like that brief flash on her screen hadn't changed the temperature in the room. I played along, pretended to be in a rush, brushed my teeth in silence, got dressed with my back turned. She asked if I wanted coffee. I said I'd grab one on the way. Normal on the surface, but underneath, everything had shifted. I locked myself in the bathroom and turned the faucet on. Not because I needed water, but because I needed noise. Some kind of cover for what was spinning in my head. It hadn't started this morning. This morning had only confirmed what I had tried, for months, not to believe. The thing about lies is that they don't always arrive in loud packages. Sometimes they slip in quietly, riding on routines. Sometimes they wear the same perfume and smile with the same mouth. And sometimes they hide in hindsight. Looking back, the signs weren't small. They were obvious. I just hadn't been ready to see them. She used to tell me everything, not just the big stuff, but the little details too. What she ate for lunch, what her manager wore, a weird dream she had. We used to swap the most mundane pieces of our day like we were trading cards. And then one day, I realized I didn't know the names of the people she worked with anymore. When I asked, her answers got vague. Just work stuff. Meetings ran long. You know how it is. But the warmth was gone from her voice, like she wasn't replaying the day so much as editing it down for broadcast. She started going to bed with her phone in hand, would tilt it away when I looked over. Once I made a joke, something dumb like, "What? Got state secrets in there?" She laughed too hard, then didn't make eye contact for the next 5 minutes. Her laptop used to live on the kitchen table, always open, always humming, and then one week, it disappeared into her bag. She started working in the bedroom. Door closed. At first, I thought maybe she just needed quiet. We'd been bickering more. Maybe she was stressed. That's what I told myself. Then came the headphones. She wore them for Zoom calls, sure. But she kept them in during phone calls too. Even when she was talking to her mom. I remember standing in the hallway once, hearing her muffled voice through the door, and when I walked in, she snapped the laptop shut like she'd been caught doing something wrong. She smiled, said she was just done with the call. I believed her. Not because the lie was good, it wasn't, but because the truth was too painful to entertain. There was this one time about 3 months ago. I offered to drive her to work. She said no. Said a coworker was picking her up because they were stopping by the client's office first. Sounded reasonable at the time. But that morning, she looked not like herself. Dressed sharper, more deliberate, perfume I hadn't smelled in a while. And when she stepped outside, she didn't look back. Not even to wave. That's when I started checking for details. The day I found that cafe receipt in her glove box. 2 coffees, 1 croissant, from a shop on the other side of town. I asked her about it. She said she went out of her way for better pastries. That she was just treating herself. But here's the thing. That cafe is not near her office. It's nowhere near her route. I'd have to drive 20 minutes in the wrong direction to get there. And she doesn't even like croissants. It should have stood out. I should have seen it. But I told myself it was fine. I told myself people change, that tastes evolve. I didn't want to be the guy who policed his wife's snack choices. But I see it all now, how small things became patterns. How random choices began forming a narrative I couldn't ignore. She stopped bringing up names, the people she used to talk about like sitcom characters. Her work husband, Jason. Her desk mate, Kelly. Even the annoying HR lady she used to imitate. They vanished from her vocabulary like someone had pressed mute. I once asked how Kelly was doing. She blinked at me like she had forgotten who that even was. That's when it really clicked. When I started to suspect that she wasn't just hiding something. She was erasing something. I started paying attention to her body language. The way she stiffened when I got too close to her phone. The fact that she never let her screen light up face up on the counter anymore. She started sleeping with it tucked under the pillow like a secret. Her expressions changed too. Not dramatically, just enough. There was a tightness in her shoulders when she read texts. A half-second pause before responding. That vacant, tuned-out look when I talked, like her mind was living somewhere else. Like her real life was happening on a screen I wasn't allowed to see. One night, I came home late from a friend's house. She was already in bed, but the bedroom smelled like her going-out perfume. The one she only wore on anniversaries. I asked her if she'd gone anywhere. No, she said, barely lifting her head from the pillow. Just felt like dressing up a bit. Needed to feel normal. She was wearing flannel pajama pants and a hoodie. That was her version of dressing up. But I didn't push, because pushing meant confronting. And confronting meant confirming. And I wasn't ready for that yet. There was a night when she claimed she was working late, and I drove by her office building on my way home. Lights were off. Parking lot empty. Her car nowhere in sight. I told myself maybe she was at a different location. Maybe a client site. But my gut told me something else. It was always in the gut. That gnawing, persistent knot of quiet dread. You ignore it for as long as you can, but it never really goes away. It just waits, grows teeth, and now it was bearing them. The moment I saw that message, Mark, work, 2 hearts. The entire timeline rearranged itself in my mind. What had once been isolated moments were now part of a much bigger picture. A mosaic of withheld truths and carefully curated stories. The picture wasn't finished yet, but the outline was clear enough. She wasn't slipping away from me. She was already gone. And I was just now realizing I'd been walking alone for longer than I thought. I didn't confront her that morning. Could've. God knows the evidence was there. Not just the message, not just the photo, but every breadcrumb that had trailed behind her for months. But I didn't want another lie. Another smoothed-over explanation delivered with rehearsed calm. I needed more than words. I needed the truth to say itself. So I played dumb. Said goodbye like always. Kissed her cheek. She flinched, just barely. I pretended not to notice. Drove to work with the radio on volume too low to matter. Every song sounded distant, like someone else's background noise. I barely made it through the day. Meetings blurred. Emails went unanswered. I kept checking the time, counting hours like something was coming. Like the world was tilting toward a confrontation that hadn't happened yet but already lived in my bones. That night, when I pulled into the driveway, her car was already there. House dark except for the glow coming from the bedroom window upstairs. I stepped inside quietly, out of habit more than stealth. She was nowhere in sight. Kitchen lights off. TV silent. I found a note on the table, scribbled on a sticky pad like an afterthought. Not feeling great. Lying down early. Don't wake me. Okay? Short. Casual. Like we weren't hovering on the edge of something sharp. I should have left it there. Should have gone to bed. Let her fake her headache. Let the silence stretch another night. But I didn't. Her phone was on the kitchen counter. It buzzed once. Then again. The screen lit up with the same name from that morning, Mark, work. No heart emoji this time. Just a name and a video thumbnail. My hand moved without asking my permission. I picked it up. No passcode prompt. She hadn't locked it yet. Maybe she didn't think she needed to. Maybe she thought she had covered her tracks. The video was short. 18 seconds. It opened with dim lighting. Kitchen, not ours. Sleek marble counters. Champagne bottle open on the side. Music faint in the background. Pop song I didn't recognize. And her. She was sitting on a counter, barefoot, legs tucked to one side, wearing what looked like one of my old shirts, except it wasn't. It was a replica. Shorter. Looser. meant to look casual, meant to look borrowed. A man's arm reached into frame, then his face, smiling, confident, familiar. It was him, Mark, the same guy she invited over for dinner months ago. She said he was a rising star at her firm, that he needed help networking. I grilled steaks while they drank wine. He laughed at all her jokes, called me man too often, looked at her like he already knew the ending. I didn't like him then. I hate him now. In the video, she leaned into him. Not just physically, emotionally. Like gravity. Her head tilted back with a laugh I hadn't heard in years. Her hand grazed his jaw like it was muscle memory. She whispered something I couldn't make out. Then, for a split second, the mirror behind them caught their full reflection. It wasn't just some random kitchen. It was the suite. The hotel suite we stayed in on our second anniversary. The one with the oversized windows and espresso machine we never used. The place where we spent a weekend pretending we had nothing but time. They were there. The date on the video. Yesterday. Yesterday, when she told me she was at her best friend's house. When she left wearing leggings and a hoodie. When she kissed my cheek goodbye. The headache this morning? An encore to the lie. I set the phone down, carefully, like it might explode. My hands were shaking, but my mind wasn't, because now I knew. There's something uniquely cruel about watching your past get repurposed. Memories you thought were sacred, now set dressing for someone else's affair. Our history, the place we once celebrated, now turned into a stage for their play. It wasn't just infidelity. It was theft. She stole something from me and gave it to him. I backed away from the counter like the whole kitchen had turned radioactive. My body was cold, hollow, like I'd left it 10 minutes ago and was just now realizing it. I walked out the front door without a sound. Didn't lock it. Didn't leave a note. I didn't even grab a jacket. I just drove. Didn't have a destination. Didn't want one. The freeway swallowed me in a stream of headlights and brake lights and the low hum of a world still turning. Everyone around me, driving home from dinner or work or drinks with friends. Their lives intact. Their routines unshattered. I envied them, hated them, needed them just to feel like the world still existed. The steering wheel felt unfamiliar in my hands. I drove until the city lights disappeared, until the road narrowed, until the skyline was nothing but a memory in the rearview mirror. I ended up near the highway exit we used to take on road trips, the one with the terrible coffee and clean bathrooms. I pulled into a 24-hour gas station and sat on the hood of the car, just staring at the dark, at the silence. There were no tears, no screaming, just the dull ache of reality settling in. I thought about calling someone, my brother, my best friend, even my dad. But what was I supposed to say? That my wife, the woman I trusted, protected, built a future around, had repurposed our memories like they were spare furniture? That she'd smiled for someone else in the place where we once slow danced under hotel lights? That she'd deleted me from the picture without even asking? No, I wasn't ready to speak it aloud. I wasn't even sure I could. I checked into a motel just off the interstate. One of those places with fluorescent signs and vending machines full of expired chips. The room smelled like bleach and loneliness. But it was mine. The bed was too firm. The sheets too thin. The walls too quiet. Still, I laid there in the dark, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process 18 seconds of video that had shattered 5 years of marriage. I played the memory on loop in my head. The smile she gave him. The relaxed shoulders. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear. Like she'd done it before. Like it wasn't new. And that's when I realized, this wasn't the first time. It was just the first time I saw it. I didn't sleep. I don't think I even blinked for the first hour. The motel room was dim and beige, lit only by a flickering wall sconce and the dull blue glow of the TV menu screen I never turned off. The bedspread had a weird plastic stiffness to it, like something that had been cleaned too many times to feel like anything at all. I lay there, fully dressed, shoes still on, arms folded across my chest like I was waiting for some unseen judge to walk in and deliver the final blow. But there was no one, just me, and the silence. It was a silence I didn't recognize, not the good kind, not peace. This was the kind that lives inside the hollow left after something's been ripped away. Like the lingering echo after a fire alarm finally stops, but your ears keep ringing. I didn't cry. I know people expect that, the angry, full-body breakdown where you scream into a pillow and toss furniture around. But it wasn't like that for me. The pain didn't come in flames. Came as ice. Numb. Sharp. Deep. At some point, maybe around 2 a.m., I sat up and looked at myself in the mirror across from the bed. My reflection looked like a stranger. Eyes sunken, face too pale, expression stuck in that half-open, half-broken place where disbelief meets reluctant clarity. I kept thinking back to the video. 18 seconds. That's all it took to rewire my entire understanding of my life. I remembered the way her hand slipped behind his neck, the way his fingers brushed her thigh. She was comfortable, familiar, not tentative, not new. This wasn't some mistake. This wasn't heat-of-the-moment passion. This was routine. I reached for my phone, not even sure what I wanted to do. Maybe I just needed to hold something that still felt like mine. The screen lit up and nearly blinded me. 17 unread messages. Most were junk. One was from my mom, sent earlier that evening. "Hey honey, thinking of you. Dad says hi. Let us know if you want to come for dinner this weekend." I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to reply with everything. Send the whole story. Dump it on her doorstep like a wounded animal. But I couldn't. I wasn't ready to hear her voice, to say the words out loud and hear the quiet heartbreak on the other end. So I just heart-reacted it. That was it. That's all I could do. At 3:04 a.m., I stepped outside. The air was heavy. Late summer heat that hadn't quite broken. The parking lot buzzed with moths, and the dull hum of a faulty neon sign that read "Vacancy." The missing bothered me more than it should have. I sat on the curb, elbows on my knees, and tried to breathe through it. Every inhale tasted like asphalt and cheap coffee. Every exhale came with a memory I hadn't invited. Like the weekend we painted the kitchen and she got a streak of blue in her hair. Or the time she showed up at my office with takeout and a stupid inside joke scribbled on the bag. Or the night I told her about my biggest fear. Not being good enough, not being chosen. And she kissed my forehead and said, "You don't ever have to prove anything to me." I guess she changed her mind. It's wild how quickly your memories go to war with you. One second they're your anchor, and the next they're acid on an open wound. I stayed out there until the sun started clawing its way over the horizon. It didn't rise. It leaked into the sky, slow and unwilling, casting long shadows across the highway like it was ashamed to light up the mess I'd become. By the time I went back inside, my limbs felt like lead. I collapsed on the bed, too exhausted to think, too wired to sleep. At 6:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from her. "Hey, you didn't come home last night. Can you let me know you're okay?" Not "where are you?" Not "I'm sorry." Not even "let's talk." Just a flat check-in, like maybe I had fallen asleep on a friend's couch or taken an impromptu camping trip in the woods. She didn't mention the phone being missing. The message, the video, none of it. That told me everything. She wasn't shocked. She was buying time. I didn't reply. Instead, I got in the shower and stood under the too hot water until my skin turned red. Like maybe I could burn off the parts of me that still wanted to believe this was salvageable. Spoiler, you can't. By 8 o'clock, I checked out. The woman at the front desk didn't ask any questions. Maybe she saw it in my face. Maybe she'd seen it before. I got in the car, hands trembling as they gripped the wheel, and just sat there. I didn't want to go home. Home didn't feel like home anymore. The walls knew. The furniture knew. The house would reek of her. Every drawer, every blanket, every shared space would now carry the stale scent of a relationship expired. So I didn't go back. Not right away. I drove around town, letting the engine fill the silence. I parked outside a bakery we used to visit on Sunday mornings. The same one where she once spilled hot chocolate all over her jeans and laughed for 10 minutes straight. I watched a couple sitting at one of the outdoor tables. They were maybe 20, maybe stupid in love. She was holding his hand with both of hers, like she thought he might vanish if she let go. I wanted to scream at them. Instead, I drove on. Eventually, I pulled into a strip mall and bought a clean t-shirt and travel-size deodorant from a discount store. Threw my old shirt in a dumpster behind the building. It smelled like her perfume and I couldn't stand it. That's how I lived the next few days. Half feral. Motel to motel. Eating out of vending machines and gas station hotboxes. Charging my phone in diners while pretending to wait for someone. But no one came. And I wasn't waiting for anyone, anyway. That first night set the tone. After the truth exploded in my hands, there was no return path. No safe route home. The ground had shifted beneath me, and everything I thought was stable now cracked with each step. I kept thinking about the moment right before I picked up her phone. If I had just looked away, if I had just gone to work like normal, trusted her like I always had, I would still be in the dark. I'd still be him. The guy she lied to. The placeholder. The understudy in a role I didn't even know I was playing. And maybe that was the worst part of all. Realizing I'd been living in someone else's version of my life. She just never gave me the script. By the third day, I knew I couldn't float forever. The drifting was comfortable in its own way. Sleeping in strange beds, moving with no direction, leaving no digital trail. But eventually, even exile starts to feel like avoidance. And there's only so long you can avoid your own life before the weight of it finds you. I sat in my car, parked outside a laundromat of all places, with the sun glaring down and the air thick with early morning humidity. My eyes were raw, my mind hollowed out from lack of sleep and too many hours replaying the same footage in my head. The video, her laugh, the hotel suite we once called ours. Enough. I opened my phone and searched. Divorce attorney near me. I didn't even hesitate. The first few results were the usual flashy billboards turned websites. Smiling lawyers promising painless separation and client-first strategies. I didn't care about smiles. I wanted cold. I wanted clean. I wanted done. I found a firm 10 minutes from where I was parked. No appointment. I just walked in. The receptionist glanced up from her desk with a practiced neutral expression. She didn't blink when I said the word divorce. Just handed me a clipboard. The form asked things I didn't expect. Length of marriage. Property holdings. Children, none. Grounds for dissolution. I stared at that one a little too long. Adultery. I didn't write it with pride. I wrote it like I was carving something into stone. Permanent, heavy, irreversible. Eventually, I was called in. The lawyer. Mid-50s, graying hair, no-nonsense posture. Shook my hand and asked if I wanted water. I declined. I told him everything. Not the sentimental parts. Not the dreams or the anniversaries or the way she used to hum in the shower. Just the facts. The video. The message. The dates. The timeline. I laid out her betrayal like a spreadsheet. He listened. Didn't flinch. Didn't offer sympathy, just efficiency. That's clear infidelity, he said. Almost like he was reading off a checklist. Documented. Time-stamped. You're in a good position legally. Felt strange hearing it called that. A good position. Like I had somehow won a game I didn't know I was playing. No alimony, he continued. Depending on your state, you could argue for full retention of shared property if she's at fault and you have supporting evidence. Do you? I pulled out my phone. Showed him the saved video. The screensh *TS. The string of texts from Mark, work, I'd screen captured before walking out of the house. He nodded slowly, tapping his pen. This will move quickly, he said. It wasn't comforting. Felt like surgery, like cutting something out before it spread. I left with a folder of paperwork and a mind full of noise. She had texted again while I was inside. Please, can we just talk? I'm freaking out. Just let me explain. Explain what? That she didn't mean to erase me? That she accidentally slipped into a hotel suite she once called magical, with a man she barely knew. That it was a moment of weakness that just happened to include multiple days, multiple lies, and an entire emotional infrastructure built behind my back? No, there was nothing to explain. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove back to the house, for the first time since I left. Felt alien, like walking into a version of my life that someone else had been living while I was away. The The dishes were still in the sink. The blanket still tossed over the back of the couch. My sneakers still by the front door, waiting for a run I'd never take again. I walked through the house slowly, deliberately. Each room held echoes. The living room where we'd watched movies and fallen asleep mid-conversation. The kitchen where she used to dance barefoot while coffee brewed. Our bedroom. The place I hadn't entered in days. Where her perfume still lingered in the pillows, taunting me. I didn't pack her things. Not yet. But I opened the closet and stared. Her side, once filled with color and care and curated versions of herself, now just looked foreign. Like costumes left behind by an actor who had finished the scene and vanished. I found our wedding album in the nightstand drawer, opened it, stared at the photo of us on the courthouse steps, smiling like fools, like people who still believed promises were bulletproof. I closed it and slid it under the bed, out of sight. By late afternoon, I had scanned and sent the attorney everything he needed. The process was in motion. She hadn't come home. Not yet. But I knew she would. Not because she cared, not really. But because she was losing control of the narrative. And people like her don't go quiet when that happens. At 7:13 p.m., the door opened. She stepped inside slowly, cautiously, like someone testing the ground beneath them. When she saw me sitting at the dining table, she froze. Her face was pale, hair pulled back, no makeup, not her usual presentation. For a moment she looked small, not vulnerable, just exposed. "Hey," she said, barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. She took a few steps forward. "Can we please talk?" Her voice cracked. "I know how this looks. I know you're hurting. I messed up, I know that. But you didn't mess up," I interrupted. She blinked. "What? You didn't mess up," I repeated. "You made a choice. That's different." She stood there, stunned, like no one had ever said that to her before. "Let me explain," she tried again. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It just... You planned it," I said calmly. "You booked the same hotel room, the same suite. You wore one of my shirts or something meant to look like it. You smiled for him like you used to smile for me. That's not a mistake. That's choreography." Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't flinch. "I've already started the paperwork," I said, holding up the folder. "It's happening. No alimony. No negotiation. I'm keeping the house. The accounts are frozen. Your name's being removed from everything." "Wait!" She stepped closer. "Can we please not do this like strangers? We built a life together. That has to count for something." "It did," I said. "Until you sold it for 18 seconds of int asterisk Macy and a bottle of champagne in a room we made sacred." She looked like she might collapse. But I didn't catch her. She sat down, head in her hands, whispering apologies that I didn't need or want. I waited for the guilt to hit me, for the part where I questioned whether I was overreacting, for the wave of memory to crash down and drown me in forgiveness. It never came. All I felt was relief. Cold, sharp, necessary relief. The kind that comes when a splinter finally works its way out. That night, I was back at the motel when a message came in from an unknown number. Attached was a photo, him, the same man from the video. The message read, "She told me you two were separated. Said you were just roommates. That I was the first person who made her feel alive again. I didn't know. I'm sorry." He wanted to talk. At first, I didn't respond. But the more I thought about it, the more I needed to hear the whole truth. Not her version, not my guesses. I agreed to meet, not to argue, just to close the loop. We met in a diner off the freeway. No drama, just two men stitched into the same lie. He looked wrecked. Not guilty, just fooled. He showed me her texts, how she mocked me, called me safe, called him passion. It wasn't just betrayal, it was performance. For him, for herself. I thanked him, not for the pain but for clarity. Within a week, I sold the house, closed our accounts, moved into a small studio. It was quiet, clean, mine. She tried to reach out. I never answered. Some things don't deserve a reply.